Thank you. Thank you. I think, here I'm, and, obviously changing hats, and we're going to talk about AI. Now, AI is, of course, a very new subject. There's also so many sort of technical aspects to this, or let's say computer science related aspects to this. Now, and I'm going to touch on different parts of this, but you know, everybody will be on their own kind of a learning curve here and on their own journey. But and the first time that you hear these terms spoken about and aspects spoken about, you may only you know you may only take in a very small amount, but it's a learning curve, and over time everyone will get more familiar with it, and more comfortable with it, and the more comfortable you get, the more you will be able to learn, and the more you'll be able to utilize. But I think the main thing is just to have a very open mind, and yeah, you're going to be out of your depth in some areas, and but just always to hang in, and just go on the journey, and that journey will take you ultimately to the right place. Now, again, it's a vast subject, so I'm really going to position sort of the technology and the terminology, highlight some specific applications for AI and marine surveying, and then highlight areas of AI, potential AI, further AI usage, and then present some resources that could be of interest for further reading. Now, AI, so really let's sort of look at what is the definition of AI. It's the ability of machines to perform tasks that are typically associated with human intelligence, such as learning and problem solving. Okay. Now, artificial intelligence was founded as an academic discipline way back in 1956, but the field has gone through a whole lot of cycles of, over-promising, under-delivering, and then of course, loss of funding due to kind of too much hype and too little value. And however, there's sort of been these resurgence of this technology over time, and it's now got to be an area where we are starting to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk as well. And we're actually seeing a lot of stuff happening, and it's kind of is snowballing in terms of what is available and what's being done in terms of AI research and those things. And general intelligence, the ability to solve an arbitrary problem, is among the goals of artificial intelligence. And the traditional goals of AI were really just kind of reasoning, knowledge, representation, planning, learning, natural language processing, perception, and kind of support for robotics. And we'll look at a number of those things as we go through. Then, of course, there is another definition that we need to understand, which is machine learning. Now, machine learning is really kind of an umbrella term for solving problems which development of algorithms by human programmers would be cost prohibitive. So what we really need is, typically when humans write programs, they write them in a way to actually be able to provide a solution to a known structured problem. And so if you were trying to write a computer program for an unstructured problem, or a problem that could have many permutations, that would be a huge, almost impossible task. But what happens is, if we combine AI with traditional kind of computer software, and we bring the two together, then effectively what we can do is we can write programs that can harness artificial intelligence and use that as a way for them to actually solve the problems that they're trying to, that are not strictly structured problems. And again, there's mathematical foundations around machine learning, And again, machine learning is applied to what we call large language models, computer vision, speech recognition, and other areas. Um, and then we have something called natural language processing. Now, this in itself is used in AI, but is not necessarily an AI technique in itself. So natural language processing, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to allow ourselves to be able to talk to computer software and let it understand what we're saying. So we need to be able to pose a query or pose some aspect of a problem we're trying to solve. And then from our spoken language, it needs to be able to interpret that. So natural language processing is how do you, from a string of text, actually determine what is being said and what are the key aspects of that let's call it conversation byte. What is the or snippet? What is that? And then what are we trying to infer by it? Okay. Um, Now, unlike editors or word processors, which really just allow us to input text and then they store text, and sometimes they will do grammar checks and stuff like that. NLP considers the structure of the human language in terms of phrases, sentences which convey ideas or intent that the user is trying to invoke. Okay. And of course, we know the ambiguous nature of the human language makes it difficult for a machine to always correctly interpret the user's requests, which is why we have seen this really a shift of this discipline of natural language processing to something of natural language understanding. But right now, with pure natural language processing, we are still in a reasonable position for the machines to be able to interpret what we're trying to communicate. Now we have other techniques and tools that we have for artificial intelligence, and these are called neural networks. So effectively, what we're trying to build in software is something similar to the way that the human operates, in terms of the fact that we have, effectively a network, we have neurons, and we are able to propagate um, we are able to propagate things and determine things based on how we drive these networks. And they're artificial neural networks because they are not the biological ones that we have, and they are connected in a similar way to what biological neurons are. So in other words, we excite different neurons, and that has different types of outputs. And these are used, it can be used for predictive modeling, adaptive control applications, and we can kind of train these to react in a certain way. When we provide a certain inputs on the green, we can get some certain outputs at the other end. And this particular diagram here is a very simple one because most neural networks would have multiple hidden layers. Always have an input layer and they always have an output layer, but then they would have, depending on their complexity, they would have multiple layers. And we build these in software, and then they can be trained to actually behave in a certain manner and solve from certain inputs, provide certain outputs, and in doing so, they can, they can drive outcomes. Okay. Now, again, this is kind of just a bit more detail from the previous slide. Um, Again, we call these the neural networks are artificial neural networks, as we said, or simulated neural networks. Any of those terms can be used, um, and really they use statistical modeling. Kind of, they operate on statistical modeling to determine the flow and between the inputs and the outputs. Um, and again, we can model complex behaviors by creating more complex ones. But really, this is one of the artificial neural networks are one of the AI, let's call it, tools that are used for solving certain types of problems. And then we have also what we call conversational user interfaces. So remember that traditionally with computers, we would be interacting with, through our browser, with a website and a user interface, graphical user interface, and we're clicking buttons and we're doing some inputs and using that to complete actions. Whereas with conversational user interfaces, we actually can either input text directly, and or we can actually do input voice and have the computer do voice to text, and then coming out it could do text to voice, or we could have a text only interaction with one of these conversational chatbots. So this is a conversational user interface, and it's typically what we're seeing. And obviously, as we would assume from a discussion previously, there is natural language processing involved here as well, because as soon as the text is input, then the conversational chatbot first uses natural language processing, and then it will use its and then once it is able to understand what we're requesting, will use its internal AI model to respond to that. So a chatbot is really a software application interface to mimic human conversation through text or voice interactions. Okay. Now, equally, we've seen, if you go to order your groceries or you go to many other websites, you will see your chatbot capability. And you can, if you don't understand how to do something, you can ask it a question and it'll come back to you. But those chatbots are typically very simple chatbots, and they have certain predefined questions and answers. So with a simple chatbot, you ask a question and it has a canned response. It's not able to interpret. Actually, if you put in a complex question, it's not able to interpret that. It tries to find a keyword and then give you a canned response based on that keyword. So that they're very simple, and I don't use AI at all. They simply are based on kind of keyword matching and then providing a sort of canned responses. And often we get frustrated with them because we're trying to ask a specific question and they come back with a very generic answer that is not to the point. Modern conversational chatbots, use artificial intelligence, and we're able to have a conversation with them. And they use aspects of kind of deep learning and, as we said, natural language processing to understand more specifically what are we asking for. They don't just do a keyword kind of interpretation of our input. They understand what we're asking for, and then they utilize what they've learned to be able to respond to us. Now, probably all of you have heard of some of really an application called ChatGPT. Okay, ChatGPT is a conversational chatbot. Okay, now and it was released in 2022, and it's based on the GPT language models, and hence its name, because we are chatting to the GPT model. Okay, so we all know that ChatGPT is some kind of an AI bot that has conversations. ChatGPT is not in itself the language model. It is a convenient user interface built for one specific language model, which is the GPT model, hence ChatGPT. Okay, and these language models are based on technology called transformers, and they were invented by Google Research and Google Brain in 2017. And again, this was followed up by and then the alternatives to ChatGPT, which is Microsoft Bing Chat and Google Bard. So everyone is coming out with an equivalent to ChatGPT, which is a conversational chatbot. And again, these language models can be fine-tuned. Obviously, these language models are taught, and they ingest a lot of information, and then they're also, additionally, they are guided by humans in terms of learning. Chatbots can also be designed or customized for further target even more specific to further target even more specific situations or particular subject matter domains. And in marine surveying, that's exactly what we would do. We would, take one of these conversational chatbots, for example, and make it into an expert system by training it on marine surveying material and letting marine surveyors actually also help it to learn. Now, it's very interesting because there's a suggestion here, which is probably correct, that really these language models represent one of the biggest technological leaps of our lifetime, and maybe even bigger than the personal computer or the web. Okay, and I think that's very significant. And I think again, this really alludes to the fact that we're really just this is the future. We just need to have our own journey and understanding as much as we can, and getting on board with this, and getting on board with a very open mind, and not resist it. The risks of ChatGPT, there's good articles there that I'll show you in the resources, that an angle that Mike's come from, Mike Schwartz, and an angle that I've come from, and they're both very very valid and very informative, and they were written up in some articles in the Report magazine, which in the references. There are, of course, many other resources that can be seen online. But really, ChatGPT can in fact make up facts. It looks like it's a fountain of knowledge. It's very easy just to blindly think that it is correct with all things. It has the challenge that it's been taught or trained on data that came from the internet, and just from other sources as well. But the problem with the internet, that the data on the internet, there is no proof and trust. You don't know the credentials of someone who puts stuff out there. Some people are experts in their field, others are not. But if you ingest all of that, you kind of get to a point where you can't trust all of the outputs, because you couldn't trust all of the inputs. And that's where we talk in computer terms of kind of garbage in, garbage out. There is also potential issues that are emerging more and more around copyright infringement. So if it's taught on information from the internet, then it may actually repeat verbatim or include some snippets or phrases which may have been contained in copyright material, which now end up in what you think is something that ChatGPT has generated for you. But and unknowingly and unwittingly, there may well be some copyright infringements. And so anyone serious about building with ChatGPT or other language models must think carefully about these risks and must understand where the data came from that the model was trained on. Now, the public version of ChatGPT, and this is the one that we can all access, and this is the one that was trained on material from the internet, has no proof and trust, and therefore has, in my opinion, no place in the marine surveying ecosystem. We could, and many disciplines will do this, take a private version of a conversational chatbot like ChatGPT, and there's ChatGPT for Business that is an available offering. And if you train it on your own trusted material, and then you can create a conversational chatbot that is an expert system for your domain or your industry, then you have something that has value, but not something that has been trained on public internet material. So yes, reach out and have a look at this and have a play with this. It's important and it's very interesting, but just be cautioned on the risks, and also understand that if we were to use this in our industry, that we would be very specific on how we trained it and the materials we used. So in terms of AI enablement, there are two things really. We've spoken about chatbots, which is really NLP and AI, and then there's also, we've spoken about artificial intelligence, or AI and machine learning with neural networks, where we can use computer programs to actually harness the capability of AI. There was, in terms of work that's been done about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, American Bureau of Shipping um, actually built an AI computer vision system to detect levels of corrosion and coating breakdown in ships and offshore structures, particularly in things like tanks, where they could, obviously use drones and other types of devices to go in there and capture, obviously, vision of it, and then they could run that through an AI system, and they could determine. So the digital innovation in AI will change how surveyors, how surveys and maintenance strategies are executed, driving more condition-based approach, to maintenance. And this is kind of what the ABS were pushing for. And again, this is, and it was very successful, their work. There's a bit more discussion over here, how they applied this, and they've continued their work on that, and they plan to leverage remote inspection technologies more and more. And then as they say, they are building a future where digital tools can remotely assess the condition of ships and offshore units, etc. So very interesting work that they've done. I'm about 2 years ago, I did some very interesting work on using AI at the edge, in other words, on the yacht, to process onboard instrument data and determine whether you were actually sailing at the best, your as well as or better than your previous um, speed in similar conditions, and used AI to harness that. As a paper that I wrote and presented at Society of Naval Architects and Marine Engineers. Again, very interesting. Not exactly exactly in the marine surveying, but kind of again. And the AI system would actually kind of reward you if you were doing better than you've ever done before. So you're always striving to drive the boat better and faster, and so kind of very interesting aspects of that. Just a table that I drew up of looking at some initial ideas of where AI and ML would enable marine surveyors, visual inspections, as we've seen, knowledge management expert systems. This is where I see conversation AI bots specifically trained on marine surveying information. Document validation. This is because of NLP. This is something that NLP combined with AI can do very well. Cargo optimization. This is an area where some work is already being done. Intelligent testing. Of course, again, we can use AI and AI models to determine, testing using input from NDT and stuff like that to better predict failure modes and lives. And a lifespan or service life. Marine surveys, we could combine here AI-based knowledge management with augmented reality. I think very important also for succession, and something that we could look at. Risk management, of course, AI models are very good in with respect to advanced risk management, and also they can, there's obviously work being done right now for mitigation of risks in the shipping industry regarding weather, traffic, piracy, etc. and a lot of that's being AI driven. So just an initial table of some of the areas where I think that there is a lot of importance of using AI, and where it's evolving, and sort of great synergies. Now, AI is an organizational transformation, and all radically new technologies face resistance from people who fear change, from people who want to adopt change for its own sake, from people who are skeptical. AI is no different to the steam engine, automobiles, or the internet. But as you go on this journey, remember it's not magic. And AI is computer science related. There are some complexities, but there are also things that that everyone can learn and get involved with and utilize in terms of AI. And it's the barrier to entry will reduce dramatically over time. It's about building tools and to assist people in your company, helping them to become more effective. And I think Mike spoke about this right in the beginning of kind of the work that's being done there in terms of IIMS itself. Let AI focus on the dull and enable them to allow humans to upskill to more rewarding work. People are not going to use, certainly in our industry, obviously there are some areas where it still will always need to be hands-on, but AI and ML can assist us in being more efficient. It's not going to take the job away, but I think here that we will be able to strike a balance between kind of the challenges with succession and the ability to augment or assist and enable people who have not had the ability to go through the learning experiences that were available in the past, and help them to operate at a higher level or more efficiently faster. Kind of thoughts and call to action. AI is the biggest opportunity of a lifetime. But it can also be seen as a far-off utopia with no clear path for organizations to follow. However, it's a stepwise process, and you need to embrace it and then move down the road, in a stepwise fashion, and learn as you go. Our initiatives help organizations to predict the shape of future outcomes, allow people to do higher value work, automate decisions, processes, tasks, experiences, and reimagine new business models. And it's really, means increased value for organizations. However you want to determine value in terms of revenue, innovation, or opportunity for individual human growth and satisfaction. The AI opportunities are seemingly endless, and you really just, all of us can use our imagination to come up with use cases that we can use AI to assist us to solve. So, which again are interesting and I think on the mark. So yeah, I hope that was useful and valuable, and gave everybody something to take away. If there are any questions, we can certainly take those. I know we're kind of a little bit over. Apologize for that, but Mike.
Yeah, Nick, wonderful, thank you. If anyone's got any comments to make at this time, then please do. And I kind of agree with you, Nick. I think AI needs to be treated carefully. We need to be aware of the possibilities and the potentials, but we do need to be aware of the downfalls. I already know of 2 marine surveyors who have done a survey using ChatGPT to basically drum up the answers. And of course, that is absolute nonsense. Both of them will end up in a court of law. I think the biggest problem with it is you can't actually fact check some of the stuff. As you said, there are copyright issues and so on, but it is fascinating. So I'd encourage you all to embrace it and certainly go and have a look. Any questions for Nick? No? Okay, Nick, thank you ever so much. I really appreciate you contributing.
Pleasure.
And
Thank you.
I'm going to stop